For the first time ever, we own the building, people. Not leased, not borrowed, it's ours. And after years of pouring into all these buildings for other people and borrowing other people's building to do it, we finally own the keys to our very own cafe. 1977, West 48th Street, South Central Los Angeles. The legacy lives at this address, and the story that led us here is sacred. This isn't just a business move, it's a lineage of handover.
Hello, and welcome to this special Father's Day episode of the Mother's Quest podcast. Each year, I feature a father who's not only present for his own family, but also answering a larger call to lead and serve in the world. This year, all signs pointed to me interviewing Joe Ward-Wallace. Joe is a retired firefighter, impact entrepreneur, and community organizer known and appreciated for co-founding South LA Cafe, a Black-owned, family-run coffee shop, market, and cultural center rooted in the heart of South Central Los Angeles. Alongside his wife and friend of mine, Celia, with their 2 daughters, Joe has created more than a business. They've built a movement, one grounded in racial and economic justice, food access, and belonging. Today, South LA Cafe spans multiple locations and partnerships inside the Natural History Museum and the Hollywood Bowl, expanding their reach while staying rooted in purpose. At South LA Market, through their weekly grocery giveaway, they've distributed over 33,000 bags of food to thousands of community members, given with dignity and care. Joe is also the co-CEO and president of the South LA Community Foundation, which breaks the shackles of systemic oppression and inequality by creating, building, and empowering an equitable, healthy, and sustainable South Central community for all. He leads these initiatives with power and purpose, and as I've discovered in this conversation, a preparedness for what might emerge, honed from his decades-long career as a firefighter. Before I share more, I'm honored to introduce another iconic civil rights activist who happens to also be Joe's father-in-law, Eric Mann.
This is Eric Mann, co-director of the Labor Community Strategy Center, a civil rights group in South Central LA. I'm here in praise of Joe Ward-Wallace and the magnificent new 48th Street South LA Cafe. Joe's my son-in-law, but he calls me dad and I call him son. He and my daughter, Celia Ward-Wallace, are a powerful team for social justice. Joe begins and ends his life as a Black man in South Central Los Angeles. From that clear and solid identity, he approaches all problems from the interest of the Black and South Central communities, and from there to all humanity. He has suffered insults and injuries from a racially hostile society, and yet he fights back, mainly through his creative expression and drive for innovation. He just keeps inventing stuff. The story of how Joe and Celia were able to purchase Mel's Diner, an iconic South Central landmark, and were able to rescue it from the gentrifiers and keep it in the Black community is a story of miracles. As Joe says, the 48th Street South LA Cafe is a sacred container that reclaimed the land of our ancestors. Thank God there was a Black family able to weather market pressure to find dedicated Black buyers. Let's all work to help fund other Black families who can purchase homes in South Central and sell them to Black buyers. As there is some sense of despair today, the answer can only take place through building and expanding organizations. The Labor Community Strategy Center, South LA Cafe, and Mother's Quest. And great organizations still need great organizers, and Joe Ward-Wallace is in the NBA Finals.
Thank you, Eric, for your decades of impactful organizing work and for this moving dedication, which so beautifully frames Joe and Celia's vision, especially their recent milestone of purchasing the building for their next South LA Cafe. Joe and I actually recorded this episode just after he and Celia picked up the keys to the building for this first cafe property that they will own. By purchasing the historic landmark from a fellow Black community member, they ensured the building would continue serving the community's legacy, protected from the forces of gentrification. In our conversation, Joe and I reflected on the deeper roots of that moment, what it meant to grow up in a community that had little in material wealth, yet was rich in love, culture, and resilience. He shared stories of his mother, Vani, whose strength and spirit laid the foundation for his values, and how her legacy lives on through his commitment to service and entrepreneurship. As I reflect on our conversation, what stays with me most is Joe's unwavering commitment to both joy and justice, how he's investing in community not to extract, but to build lineage. His story is one of saying yes to seeds of dreams before knowing exactly how they'd unfold, and watching them grow into something even more beautiful than imagined. Through South LA Cafe, through his family, and through every act of service, Joe reminds us that legacy isn't built on perfection, but on preparation, culture, and connection. I'm Julie Neal, and this is Mother's Quest. Joe Ward-Wallace, welcome to the Mother's Quest podcast for this Father's Day special. I love the opportunity every year to interview an incredible father and change maker. And there were so many signs that came to me that said you were the one this year. So thank you for saying yes.
Oh my God, I'm honored. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to this hour.
So Celia, your wife, who is a friend of mine that I've now known for years, when I asked her about whether you might be interested, she said, I think this would be good to have for the archives. And I now feel so special that this conversation will be part of your archives.
Yes.
So let's dive in. The first question I ask every guest is, tell me a little bit about your childhood and the impact that your own mother had in shaping who you are today.
Oh, wow. Golly. My childhood, basically, let's keep it real. I was pretty poor and lived with barely any means. But here's the crazy part about, I guess, the blessing of it is I didn't know I was poor. My mom gave us and provided everything I thought we needed. I didn't necessarily get a new bike for Christmas, but I got a bike that was new to me. So she just had a way of just making sure that we had everything we needed. So I didn't understand, and I think that's with most kids, I suppose, is that you just survive with what you are. And if you have love, which my mom gave a lot of, it takes the place of that's how you're rich, or that's how you're okay, is with love. That's my upbringing. It was poor, but I didn't know it. I mean, I can go into more details about all that, but that's a whole nother podcast.
I've been a follower of South LA Cafe since you launched, and I check out your Instagram posts regularly. And I saw a post not long ago about your mom, Vani. So I'll put a link in that too, because there was so much beautifully shared about her and the kind of person that she was in the world and in your community. And it's clear that she helped set you on a path where you felt deeply woven into the fabric of your community, which I know is such a huge part of how you show up today.
Oh my God. I'm remembering that post that we had about her. Wow. My mom was incredible. She's one of the first women to actually own property. And how is that possible? She worked for some people that gave her an opportunity to buy the property that we were renting. I have a little story about that is when we first got the opportunity, the house was about to be condemned. Dang, I haven't told this story in a long time. It was about to be condemned, and it had the county or the city, can't remember which entity, but they gave us 17 days to get this property up to par, or they were going to demolish it. They were doing that back in the 70s and 80s. They were just tearing down a house if it wasn't occupied or if it was an eyesore in the neighborhood. So this is the property that we were inheriting or getting or buying or whatever, renting at first and then buying. And as a kid, I remember chopping down the grass in the yard, I worked with this crazy painter and handyman. In 17 days, we got that property up to par. And the rest is history. That was our home for many years. But I look back and I think women weren't allowed to have their name on property by themselves. I don't know, up until like the 70s or something. Talk about a pioneer. I think that's the history. At least that's the way I remember it. It was a big deal that she was actually owning this piece of property. And I mean, it was a raggedy piece of nothing, but it was our home. And again, as a kid, you don't know the difference. You now know that this is just your house, your home. Wow. Thanks for taking me down that lane. I haven't talked about that in a long time.
Oh, you're welcome. I am guessing that the pioneering spirit of your mother lives in you. A lot of what we're going to talk about today is about how you are living your version of an epic life. And epic for me is both that metaphor of saying yes to your calling and your journey. And it's also an acronym mnemonic for the guideposts that I think help us to live that life when we're raising our kids. But I want to start with the big picture meaning of epic first and ask you, what has this pioneering spirit enabled you to say yes to in your life? And I know that you've done different things from firefighter to now launching this incredible family legacy empire that is South LA Cafe and the foundation and all of that. What do you think is the connected thread of your epic life that you've been on a quest for?
That's a really good question. I didn't really know what it was until I found this place. Isn't that crazy? It's like, this is the time when you retire from something, you want to get on the golf course or the rocking chair on the porch and relax. But I realized once we got into this, I had to do more. I had to do more for my community. Celia and I were always doing things in our community, but it gave me the opportunity to see my community like up close and personal. And you say, well, wow, Joe, you lived there forever. But when you're doing the hustle and bustle of life, when you come home, you go to work, you go to your events, you come back. It's a little small group in your neighborhood. Like I know my neighbors, but I don't know my neighbors of 10 blocks away, or I didn't. Now I do. And now having this place just showed me like this community is in need of a lot. And it opened my eyes to what was really happening in my own little 2 mile radius. And we had to do something about it. We had to do our piece. We had to give because we're of privilege. If I can say that, it's kind of crazy, but I feel like we're of privilege in this community. And we had God's calling or whoever's calling, we had to do something to help this community once I found out how much this community needed.
How many years were you a firefighter for? And how do you think that work and that training helped you be able to step into what you're doing now?
Oh my God. It was crucial in the development of knowing what I'm doing now. I was an actual work for the fire department in the city for 21 years. So what it instilled in me is not perfection, but being prepared. And with that, if you do everything, first of all, as clean and as neat as you can, and you prepare for it, it's just going to make things easier and smoother. This was our first brick and mortar because we've had businesses before, but I never thought about how that would run. We had a business plan, but I didn't know how we were going to be in it. And I just brought the things that I learned from the fire department. Hey, let's make sure it's always super clean. Let's make sure the equipment is up and running and working. And I found out that was the best thing for us because people walked in and that's the first thing they see. They go, hey, my God, this place is beautiful and clean. And you think that's a small thing, but I've instilled it. I've put it into the way we run business. Like we have what we call a cleaning. We do it every 30 minutes. Most businesses are going, are you nuts, Joe? How do you do that? But if you incorporate it and you do it all the time, you could do it in 5 minutes versus if it builds up, it'll take hours to scrub stuff. But if you keep it clean all the time, I don't know. I learned that from the fire department. We're always walking around with our rag. I tell people that firefighters are the highest paid janitors sometimes because when we're not fighting fires and we're not on calls, we're back at the station, not always sleeping in the couch. We're cleaning and maintaining and making sure things are run. So that I brought that over to the foundation and the cafes.
That is amazing. I'm learning more about what firefighters do. Just that attention to detail and the pride in your work because you need to be in service of others is something that feels really clear hearing you talk about it. I do think it's a great segue to dive into our first epic guidepost, E, which stands for engaging mindfully with our children. I'm thinking what a great lesson this is for our kids growing up. Maybe there's hope for my 12-year-old son who's still living in my home now. What are the lessons that you learned through your life and your work that you have been able to infuse into your two amazing daughters?
When they're interviewed, this is why I know it's true, as they say it, is work ethic, being prepared, having, again, the grind, the grit. Those things overcome more money, more education, all those things. So if you can instill that in anyone, especially your kids, they will overcome a lot of things. Prime example of that is my daughter, Layla, the youngest, is preparing for this presentation or as a group. And she did her part way ahead, the part that she had to do for this presentation in this group. The day before, she talk about getting prepared. The day before, she wants to go over it with the group. And then she finds out not everybody's like her and they haven't done their parts. She's a straight A student. She doesn't want to get a B on this, even though it's a group. So she spends the whole night and she's almost punishing them up till, I don't know, she's like 1 a.m, which I don't recommend. But it's just that she has the work ethic. She says, I'm going to get this right. And she had them up all night and prepare for the presentation and did a great job yesterday. As a matter of fact, I have to give her props. But I think that is what she's learned from us. She knows that no matter what, you got to get it done. You got to get prepared for it.
I love that. And I'm also curious about the role that they have played in shaping all that you've been building.
Our kids, they're our senior counsel. Now being senior, they have their fingers and their opinions in everything. It drives me crazy sometimes. It makes me feel like I don't know how to get dressed anymore. They've been a part of our design. They've been a part of the development, our handbook for our employees. It's just these kids are just absolutely partners in this. And at an early age, we have taught them about finance. Adults sometimes try to keep bills away from kids. We have started at a very young age exposing them to really what's going on with the finances in the house. So they understand it. It's almost like I'm talking to another adult. They really get it. They can do a P&L. That's crazy for a 14-year-old, and they understand it. So they've helped us many times. They've stopped us from making some mistakes, even with some of our postings.
One of the things that has been core to Mother's Quest since the beginning is this belief that we're in a reciprocal relationship with our children. Not only are we hoping to guide and teach them from our own experience, but they have so much to teach us and also to contribute at a young age. So I love hearing about how much they've been involved and how much they have supported you.
Again, they're our partners. They really are. And I'm not just saying this because they're my kids. I would, but they're really amazing little human beings. And I've learned, believe it or not, more patience from them. There's times when they're kind of my calming, like, Dad, do you really want to say that? Or do you really want to do it that way? And I got some wonderful partners in the house.
Well, I want to move us to the next guidepost P, which stands for passionate and purposeful impact. We've started to talk about that a little already. And I would love to hear more about the forces at play that you witnessed in your community that you felt that you wanted to do something about, and the forms in which South LA Cafe have taken to try to address those.
Well, if you don't know, yeah, I'm going to tell you where I'm going with this one right away is gentrification in our community. And oftentimes when people say the word gentrification, they immediately go to race. And I'm not necessarily talking about the race of it. It's a race, another word, but it's wealth. It's people with money coming after communities as if they're pioneers, as if they've discovered something. They discovered to come honestly to make money. And it breaks my heart. I started seeing it about 10 years ago. It started happening faster and faster. And what I mean by that, people were coming in with businesses and shops. Because Black and brown, we're the biggest consumers. So we're going to buy stuff from you. But they were coming in with things that they didn't ask or feel out or interview the community as to what they needed. They just were coming in with, this is what I think you need. This is what I believe you need. And this is what I can make money with. That could be yoga shops. That could be all these other things. And the bigger picture I thought was happening is that they were bringing these things that people with more money enjoyed, that eventually pretty smart people, they knew that that would draw other people with money into these communities. And then the people here would be displaced because now the value of the properties that they own, they have more value. So people would come in and buy them. And the people here couldn't afford to buy it. So where would they go? They get displaced. And I started seeing it like on my block, actually 3 or 4 homes where people just, these families that have been here all their lives, and all of a sudden they're not there. I don't know if they were renting or what the story was, but they're not there anymore because here's another family that has more money. You're talking about when I came here, and I might be aging ourselves a little bit, the houses were in the 2s and 3s, and now they're 1.3
Wow.
million, to buy in this area. And the people here couldn't afford it. So I said, we have to work with these folks or slow them down. And how do you do that? You start buying yourself. You start opening businesses yourself. You start educating the community about not selling their home. You know, Family just sold another house on my block. It's still happening. And what can we do about it? What are we doing about it? We're having places like South LA Cafe not to stop, just say that we can do it ourselves. That's a real touchy one for me because I don't mind progress, but I just don't, the displacement of the people, losing your neighbors and losing your friends and losing businesses that's been a part of your life. I don't even eat meat or fish, but there's a fish market that was here for 50 years, kind of a community spot. We helped put their kids through college, to be honest with you. This community did. And we knew that family very well. They were very good to the community. The community was very good to them. And then when it was time to sell, perfect example, there was a couple of us that offered to buy the building at what he offered, but then he sold to a developer. And now there's a big eyesore 8-story building where this iconic fish market used to be. So just stuff like that, just irritating.
I was listening to some of your episodes that on the podcast In the Mix with Celia and Joe, and I know you have a whole episode on both of your thoughts on this topic. I'm going to make sure to link to that so people can go and listen and learn more. I also want to hear more about what you and Celia and your family and your community have been building. What was the original inception for South LA Cafe and what is there now?
The original was, that's funny. We've always wanted to do a coffee shop, or not always. For about 15 years, we were thinking about it. And then that connects with the gentrification. I said, hey, we better go ahead and do it now. I just retired. I'm leaving work and I passed my off ramp by a block. I used to get off at Normandy. I ended up getting off at Western this time. It's not that far away, but I passed one off ramp. And so I'm coming down Western And I hadn't really noticed this building until that day, really, that a big old for lease sign. And it was ugly and like a dirty pink rose color building. I don't know what they were thinking. And there had been many failed businesses in that unit over the years. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna look into that. That'd be a good spot for the coffee shop. And so I called the number, did the negotiation, went back and forth. And my idea of coffee shop was a bunch of TV screens, a bunch of couches, and some pour over drip coffee and some Costco muffins. That was my idea of what I wanted to do with that place. But then I got the great organizer and the great planner involved in it. What happened with this is that I kept asking the landlord for the world, like everything. Like I just throwing things out there, almost hoping that they'd say no. And then I'd say, oh, see, I tried, right? But they kept saying, okay. Oh, you want to do that? Okay. And then, before I knew it, we were signing a lease and not on one space, but a double space. So you got involved and we can not just do a coffee. This could be a place, a safe space. This could be a community space. And, we got our minds together and one thing led to another. Then we opened it. I skipped over a lot, but we opened it.
And what do you have today?
And today, because of that space, here's the great thing about it. The community welcomed us with open arms. They couldn't wait to have us. And reason being, we were giving them something that they needed, that they wanted, because we live here and we knew what we needed and what we wanted. So it made it really easy, right? And with that, I think that corner has been magical and it has allowed us to do now what I think we're going to have 5 cafes throughout South Central. And that's our goal, is to have these welcoming, safe spaces all over our community because it's fitting a small need. People come in there to study. People come in there to just relax and be in a safe space. It's hard to believe that there wasn't that much of this around and that people appreciate it so much, everyone that we open. They flood to them, which I'm loving. All started from an idea of wanting to have Costco muffins and drip coffee.
I love the evolution and the planner and the community organizer and the force for the larger vision that you are describing. I know is Celia, your partner, wife, and all the things. It's been amazing to see. Of course, I'll include links to the website, but it's not only the cafes. You have a foundation, you have an academy. I mean, it's just, Celia uses the term ecosystem, but you have built this incredible ecosystem.
I am a yes, why not type of person. I don't even ask why not. I just go, yes, and let's work out the details. And if it doesn't work out, the journey was fun and maybe we'll be friends. So you have to draw me back a little bit on that because I say yes to everything. But I think that mentality has helped us build what we have. It's like people come up with the craziest things and I say yes. And then we work out the details and it doesn't always work out. It's always like, then they'll see that may not work, but I get a friend out of it. So I'll keep saying yes. Celia will keep monitoring it. But you know what? I say that to say this. Tell you guys a little story. When we were building this cafe, we were in the midst of it. We were, using all of our savings, cost a lot more than we thought it would. And it was taking longer than we thought with this contractor that we were using. But I used to go to this little market that was right in the same little mini mall. It had fresh fruit and vegetables. So I would go there, get some fruit, make myself a salad or buy a salad. And that was my little market. Because we live in a food desert. There's not many markets around anyway. So that was our little space. And then one day they're telling me they're closing. And I'm going, what? And I said to myself, no, we can't let that happen. How do we keep this open? And I thought, brilliant idea, right? I'll keep the market open. I'll open it, I'll make it bigger and better. So I go home with the idea that night with Celia. And I said, hey, babe, I know we're not finished with this coffee shop and it's driving us crazy and we're going to get it open and just trust and believe. But we have an opportunity to open up a market in the same little mini mall. Do you want to do it? And this crazy woman said, yes. Almost immediately. I had to look around. Are we on camera? Because I couldn't believe it. She said yes so easy. So long story longer, the market part wasn't very successful because we didn't know what we were doing as far as a market. We didn't understand waste and vegetables and fruit and all that as we thought we did. But now it is our foundation. It's our foundation to our grocery giveaway. It is where we do our bags. It's where we store our food. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't have been able to do the grocery giveaway for the 5 years plus that we have. So every week.
That's incredible. And it seems like there's this process where you say yes to a dream or the seed of an idea, and then it may not always take the original form, but you figure out how can it serve your community, and you're prepared, not perfect, in
Exactly.
what unfolds.
There you go. Sometimes you just have to listen to the whatever's guiding you. I want to hope and pray that's a higher being up there guiding us along to do all this stuff. And it's appearing that that's the way it's playing out. Our lives are full, but it's full of adventure, full of serving, helping people, making our community space by space just a better place to be. Wow, that sounds like a slogan.
It is. There's deep meaning beneath those words. Let's go to the next guidepost I, which stands for invested in yourself. And you've already been talking about some of the ways that you do that by being connected in your community, by listening to the whispers that are calling you to your next adventure, by being prepared. You also mentioned that you instill grit in yourself and your children. I also know from listening to your podcast last night that grit without rest is a recipe for burnout. And you brought in the metaphor in that interview about like your equipment will no longer be able to function. So now I know some of that comes from your firefighter days and the attention to detail that you put into that. But tell me what you feel like are the biggest lessons you've learned about how to not only invest in yourself and your dreams, but sustain them.
You brought up a good point. We are working very hard. We're behind. It's like pushing the ball up the hill. So we have to work hard. We have to work harder. We have to be more prepared, be involved in more things. And with all of that, me and Celia have such an amazing work ethic. We can forget to shut down sometime. And we have to remind ourselves the reason we're able to do this is because we take care of ourselves. Is because as hard as you work, you have to work harder on getting rest, on taking care of yourself. So Celia and I are just like, we're really advocates of like taking breaks. When we take a break, we really take a break. We shut down everything. And we do it, I can speak for myself. I selfishly do it because I know that I want to work hard after I rest up. It's sort of like I want to train and work hard, but then I want to rest so that I can train and work hard again. So call me crazy, but that's the way I do it. And I think it has helped us on this quest.
Mm-hmm.
It has helped us to be present when we need to be.
What are the specific practices or outlets that bring you joy and help you to rest and recover?
Give me my little cheat thing. Celia and I, we escape. We try to do it at least once, or now it's up to about 3 times. So on an average, about twice a month, we'll just try to just get away for a day. Like, we have a big, beautiful house, but go get a hotel room. It's me and her, and we're just letting it go, like not even thinking about anything. To be perfectly honest with, during that process, business will come up anyway because we're so rested and our minds are so free or relaxing. Then these new ideas will come up. And we'll start talking about that, but it's all in feel good. It's all in resting the mind. We're not getting the calls. We're not answering the texts. We're not doing the emails. And I think that if anybody can incorporate in their family in their lives, just doing that at least once a week. You know how they talk about if you do that 15 minutes a day of silence, that your world just becomes so much bigger? Well, I think if you take a day a week and just relax, there's a grind, but you can't do the grind forever. You know, you got to turn the engine off to maintain it. So that's our practice. We try to do that. And when we vacation, we vacation.
You vacation hard.
We vacation harder.
Well, we're now at the last guidepost C, which stands for connected to a strong support network. And this is about remembering you're not alone on the journey and building community. I'm wondering two things. The insights that you feel like you have learned from the ways that you are so intentionally building community. And also, I often talk about something that I call an epic snapshot moment. And it's those moments that sometimes you actually take a photo of, but other times the image is just clear in your mind and in your heart because it is the moment that captures everything you've been working towards. So I'd love to hear your reflections on this guidepost. And if you have a particular epic snapshot moment that you could share that exemplifies what you've been working toward.
I purposely didn't prepare for that one. I wanted it to come naturally. And it just did. The thing that gives me the most joy, that's most epic to me, is every Wednesday when I see the beautiful, smiling, happy, joyful people's faces that we are serving with our grocery giveaway. It is my joy. We're doing it again today. And that is so epic to me. These are my neighbors. You know, the reason we started that grocery giveaway was because we are of a privilege and we knew that. And we said, what about our neighbors? And I think if you do things with that part of your heart, they will work out and they will reward you back. And the reward that I get, the joy is the joy when I see their happy face. They're so happy to see me. I mean, they're there because they need groceries. Sadly to say that most people can't afford, but that's it. It does it for me. Like I just take a snapshot of that. My grocery giveaway. Wow. I say mine because I used to be in those lines, you know, and I don't know how many times I've said that, but I just want people to understand that oftentimes you hear people say that food bank stuff. I don't even like that phrase.
Yeah.
It's a grocery giveaway. You know, that's what it is. And you shouldn't be, my memory, my image of of a place that's giving food is the people were mean and they didn't handle the food right. And they just gave it to you, just like, here you go, very rudely. And I was embarrassed standing there with my mom. I have that deep feeling. I'll never lose that. So I make sure that the people that come to get our grocery giveaway are feeling they're happy to be there. Not happy that they're in the situation that they need it, but it's a joyful space. You won't believe. Well, we've shown it on our Instagram. There's been people there since 7 this morning. We don't give out the tickets till 10 o'clock, but they're not just coming for the grocery giveaway. Remember, our cafe's there. So now they have a place every week that they come and meet with their friends, have a cup of coffee. It is so beautiful. Like if I do nothing else, and I had a lot more planned for us to do in this community, but if I do nothing else, I could go tomorrow and be very happy. It has gotten us all of the attention. It has gotten us all of the notoriety. I believe just because we're doing what we believe is our mission is to take care of our neighbors. That's how it started off. Wow, you brought a tear to me just now. Jesus, yeah. That is our thing. Come on, you're having an Oprah moment here.
We should all have an Oprah moment.
I love that we do that. I tell everybody that, like, as long as we can, you know, and we want to do more of these because people have the basic right to have a full belly. Come on.
Well, along the lines of you want to do more, I told you already I was going to ask you. And so you could grab the tissue box in case you need it.
Yeah.
But you all made a big announcement today about having the keys to your own building, which is a huge milestone. And the post itself that I read was so beautiful about what it means to own this building. And I know it is just the next threshold of more investment and legacy to come.
Yes.
So I was hoping that you would read out loud so we can all hear what this means.
Gladly. And this is how it starts. We bought the block. Nice title, right?
Yep.
This is not a drill. For the first time ever, we own the building, people. Not leased, not borrowed. It's ours. And after years of pouring into all these buildings for other people and borrowing other people's building to do it, we finally own the keys to our very own cafe. 1977, West 48th Street, South Central Los Angeles. The legacy lives at this address, and the story that led us here is sacred. This isn't just a business move. It's a lineage of handover. If you guys remember the home of Mel's Cafe, a beloved Black-owned restaurant for decades, and Mel and his family fed our people with dignity and consistency and care. They didn't just serve food, just like us, they served the community. When it was time to let go, they could have sold it to developers that, like, is happening in this community all over. They could have cashed out, but instead they passed it on to us, from one Black family to another, from nourishment to reimagination, from a generation that held the line to one building forward. Soon, this will be the 48th Street South LA Cafe, our first location that we own outright. But we're not just opening up a cafe, folks. We're building something deeper, a home for resilience, a hub for culture, mutual aid, food justice, and joy, a sacred container with dreams that live and love organizes. We didn't just sign papers. We reclaimed the ground of our ancestors lost, the ground we fought to stand on, the ground we now hold for future generations. This isn't just our win, it's a collective milestone. Hear me, it's a symbol of what's possible when we protect what we've built and create new systems rooted in justice, dignity, and love.
Ooh, well, now I'm crying. It feels so amazing to hear you say these words out loud.
Oh, this is so beautiful. It is so many stories behind this place and how we got it. I got to save some of that. I don't think Celia wants me to give it all up.
We will stay tuned. I'm sure there'll be some podcast episodes coming too. So I look forward to hearing and witnessing more of this as it all unfolds.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me share that. I appreciate that.
Oh my goodness. Well, I hope it helps you take in this day and create some epic snapshot moments from this milestone for yourself. We're getting close to the end of our conversation. And before we end with acknowledgments and takeaways, you have an opportunity to give me and anyone listening an invitation or a challenge for something you would like to see us do in our lives to make our lives more meaningful, more epic.
Folks, I challenge you to just go and help a neighbor with anything they need. Just one. Now, if we're reaching 10,000, 30,000, 50,000 people, that will be 50,000 people that we helped. And I challenge you to do that because that's what, believe it or not, started my grocery giveaway. And I just talked about all of what that created after. So just go get your neighbor and help them with whatever they need. Ask them and then do it. I challenge you. That's my challenge of the day.
I love it.
Simple.
I say yes. And as we were talking, I was thinking about this owner of a cafe that is in my neighborhood. And sometimes we walk the dog or ride our bike. Sometimes we eat there. Sometimes we get it to go. Just our favorite breakfast. And this amazing man who's worked there for years and years behind the counter. And I don't know that much about his story. And I also don't know if he has anything that he needs. But I know I'm so grateful
Wow.
for what he provides to our community. So I'm going to commit to go and learn a little bit more about him and see if there's something I can do to help.
Wow. You hearing that, folks? That's what I'm talking about. See, and you have no idea what you may uncover, and start. That's beautiful. Thank you for allowing me to challenge everybody.
I want to say two more things here before we close out. It is amazing to me sometimes the interwoven connections in the timing of the interviews that I have. So the episode is going to come out after yours, but I interviewed them earlier this week, Susan Burton and Pamela Marshall. Susan grew up in East LA and then South LA, was a person who suffered from a lot of the forces at play in her community, sexual abuse. Her child was actually hit by a police officer and killed when he was 5 years old. And that sent her into a spiral of addiction, for which instead of getting help, she was imprisoned. I believe it's 9 times over 15 years.
Wow.
And at the age of 46, she was finally able to get help. And she ended up creating something called a new way of life. It began with one house, and now they have many. And she supports women literally by, they can call her when they have been released from prison, and she will go pick them up and shelter them and feed them and give them community and help them reunite with their children. Her story is unbelievable. And she also wrote a memoir, which I encourage you and Celia to read. But apparently you all don't know each other yet, and you should. So that's an introduction I made by email. It's in your inbox already. You can go find it.
Oh my God, I'm excited to meet her. Wow.
And then I also interviewed and already released an episode with Rabbi Sharon Brous, who is this incredible rabbi at a synagogue that's rooted in social justice called ICAR. And her challenge was similar about the power of small acts of generosity. And she challenged us to go for a walk in our neighborhood and not be on our phone, but actually look people in the eyes and say hello and pay attention to where you live. So I can send you that episode
I'd
for
like
you to
see
listen
that.
to.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this gift of spending this time with you and creating some reflections for the archives, and especially on this momentous day.
Yes.
I want to acknowledge you for some of my takeaways from this conversation, and then I'll let you have the last words to share anything you feel like you're leaving with that may be in sharper focus for you as a result of this time together. So I want to acknowledge you for the ways in which you have woven your connection to your community and to your calling into this beautiful legacy that's unfolding with South LA Cafe, and also in the development and growth of these beautiful children who are already contributing. And I cannot wait to see what they do in the world. They are more than prepared. I loved this distinction about not seeking perfection, but being prepared. The ways in which you had these seeds of dreams that you said yes to, and how you allowed them to unfold, sometimes in more beautiful ways than you even imagined. And I am just sitting with the power of this expression, you bought the block, because I know that it is an investment that is not a takeaway for your community, but it is something that is, as you said, building the lineage, and how you do it all with so much commitment to joy and to justice and to service. So thank you for all of those examples and the way in which you shed light on them for us today.
Wow, thank you. Well, I don't have that much to say that I can get out in words from this interview. But what comes to me most is that you allow me to have this space to share what we can do as human beings. It is possible still. We were put on this earth to, I believe, help and share. I had a conversation this morning earlier with a friend, and they were talking about things that we can do. We can get together everybody wants to get together with us now and buy. So they want, get together and buy. I don't necessarily, and this may sound crazy, I don't need to get it for the money. I need to make sure that things that I'm doing, we are getting to help others in this community. I get that from this. And I thank you for allowing me to get this out, or someone hears us, it changes the way they think and want to do things in their communities.
Happy early Father's Day.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Okay, mini Oprah made me cry today. Made me cry today.
The best kind of tears.
The best kind. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for coming along with me on this episode of the Mother's Quest podcast. I hope this conversation sparked something that will help you live your epic life. If you'd like to get show notes and learn more about how to join the Mother's Quest community, visit mothersquest.com. And while you're there, I would love it if you would follow the prompts to subscribe, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and help us to spread the word. I want to end with some words to help light the way on your quest. Seize the day, love your people, honor your gifts. Until next time.